Dr. Ramani, let's talk about those F-16s. I do remember vividly at the very beginning of the war, President Zelensky asked for jets over and over again. And there were foreign secretaries and defense ministers all around the EU, the UK, even in the US, saying that absolutely will not happen. They cannot risk having a conflict between machinery, let's say, supplied from the West coming up against their Russian counterparts. What's changed?
Well, I mean, at the beginning of the war, Zelensky was pushing for a no-fly zone as well as for the delivery of these jets. And both of these proposals were written off. And even though Jake Sullivan said today that the U.S. actually hasn't changed its position because it never categorically ruled out shipping F-16s, it's very clear that the West is seeing through Russia's bluster about nuclear weapons being largely hollow and Russia's threats of escalation being largely hollow, and is now making more calculations that are not just based on these escalation risks. So we saw that with the arrival of tanks and long-range missiles like the Storm Shadows from Britain and the Soviet-era jets like the MiGs, and now on to F-16s.
Can we get some clarification on those F-16s, Dr. Ramani? They are going to be flown by Ukrainian pilots, not American pilots.
Absolutely, yeah. They're going to be flown by Ukrainian pilots, and there's a training program that's underway that the U.S. is getting many other NATO countries involved in. Denmark and Portugal were just the last two to join that training program. And there's an internal U.S. Air Force assessment that was released to the press a few days ago that showed that the Ukrainians could be learning to use these jets much more quickly than we thought. They may even be able to be trained within 4 months. So I think that the Ukrainians are going to be able to quite seamlessly adopt to this kind of sophisticated NATO-class technology.
Dr. Ramani, I wanted to finish with you giving us your thoughts about what happens now to the counteroffensive. We've been hearing this a lot from President Zelensky. He's talked about the army in the sky. The F-16 jets are now part of his arsenal. The word counteroffensive, of course, has a lot of connotations. Speed, the idea that the Russian forces are going to be pushed back behind the Russian fences, if you like. What should we expect from this counteroffensive? When is it likely to start, and how long will it continue?
Well, I mean, it's unclear exactly when it's going to start, but I think it's probably going to start this summer. And it does seem as if the Ukrainians are going to try to launch along multiple axes of advance. They're already doing shaping operations in the Zaporizhia area, including in areas like Tokmak, which suggests that they're potentially making a move to liberate Melitopol. They're also moving in different parts of Donbas as well. We're seeing some counterattacks occur on the outskirts of Bakhmut in Donetsk, and we're also seeing some movements in the Svatovo-Kremina axis in Luhansk over the course of the past few months. So much will depend really on the momentum that they're able to generate, the level and supply of munitions, particularly ammunition and air defense missiles and other things, and also whether the Russian military's fortifications and conscript units that they've packed over there sustain themselves or whether they fold. That will determine how long it'll last.
Do you think that there is a world in which by end of this year we will see every single Russian soldier behind the borders, behind the Russian borders?
Well, given what happened in Kharkiv, it's impossible to rule anything out, but I think that that's fairly unlikely. I suspect that this counteroffensive is probably not even going to necessarily be the last one. And that's why Zelensky is going to emphasize the need for the West to stay the course, because this conflict could drone on for quite a while, and the West needs staying power behind Ukraine.